Okay, it's recording. So, Ayman, thank you for being here. This is a series of sort of testimonial conversations I'm having with people that I've worked with, so that anyone who's maybe thinking of working with me or thinking of what it might be like to be coached by me can get a good sense for it without all the crap, like having to figure out what it might be like. You can get an experience from someone who's been through it.
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. So thank you for saying yes to this.
My pleasure, David. I'd love to obviously help and just share my experience. It's been obviously, I think about a year when we started, wasn't it? About a year ago.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed for me and happy to share it.
Awesome. So actually, it'd be great to begin at the beginning then. So just when we met, or just around the time we met, what was happening for you?
So I think maybe a month or two before I met you, I was still working in the corporate world. I was a contractor, and I made a decision at the beginning of the year that I was going to transition and be a nomad, basically live a nomadic lifestyle with my partner, Alma. And I was hosting Inspired, which is a monthly event that I have in London. And I think the first time I met you was when you came to Inspired. You were a guest there. And I wasn't really looking for a coach, but I knew I was about to go through a really big period in my life and a huge transition, a really innovative period. So I think I thought subconsciously it'd be really good to have a coach at this moment in my life. I've had a coach before. It wasn't an amazing experience, but I did create certain things through it. And I just thought that, it would be good to work with someone who's really grounded, can help me through this period. So what really attracted me to you in the first instance was your big heart. You have a really big heart, David. And I saw that really clear when you first came to Inspired, because I don't know if I really told you the story, but it was I think it was like April or May, and there was a lady who came to the event who was with her guide dog. So she was by herself. She came to the event and she sat down there, and I think you were the only person apart from myself who really kind of just took time to sit with her and just find out a little bit about her and what her story is. And I just saw that and I thought, wow, that's really genuine. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know what you were about. But I just thought that's a really genuine person there. And that's kind of how it all started. Personally, like I said, I was transitioning. I was moving from like the corporate world to being a professional trader. And I was going to be in London for about 3 or 4 months before I start really kind of being international. And I think it was maybe like a month or a couple of weeks after that, like I kind of got to know your work and decided to have a consultation. So that's how it started.
Yeah, I remember meeting you in the bar actually, because obviously before I was coming to the event, because Anik actually who invited me, said it'd be good to go to the event, check it out. And so obviously I googled you and looked up what you'd done and stuff. And
you googled me? Oh no! Yeah.
Yeah, so I just got a good sense for what you've been doing, right? I remember having a conversation with you at the bar actually about some of the things you've done, and your perspective actually on personal growth was really interesting to me, because that was something that came through, your dedication to your personal growth. And I think we had a conversation at the bar about that when I very first met you. And then it was. I think we connected at the end of the evening a little bit. On the way out, we stayed later and had a little chat there, and then. Yeah, I think you reached out, and then we met at the South Bank, right? Where we had the conference all met up to explore what you wanted. And it was. I remember clicking with you at that point and seeing what you wanted to create. Obviously your short-term goals and your exciting, incredible long-term ones. And so it gave me a sense for who you are and what matters to you. And that's when I was like, yeah, okay, I want to work with this guy. And that's when it began.
Yeah, that was a really exciting period because I had the short-term goals quite clear, and the long-term goals I just knew were exciting. I didn't know exactly what they were. I knew they were about service. I didn't know exactly the industry or the field. But obviously, like most people who are really serious about growth and expansion, there's something about, like the education of people and service. But I remember that one of the first conversations we had, you really kind of challenged me, like, what is it? I can't remember the series of questions. But I remember connecting to like exactly what it was. And it was so exciting. It was actually about creating a pathway for children through football. And that was really exciting. And what I loved about the way you work is that we brought that to the present moment. And I had one actionable step that was unique to me in my position. And it was for me to arrange a meeting with a guy in Holland that I knew through working at Fox. And I had a good relationship with him. But it never occurred to me that this guy could be a guy that I actually work with, in a different capacity to Fox. And I remember like kind of having the conversation about this kind of new future. And then you challenged me like, what is the next step? What could I do right now? And there was a couple of things, but I remember that this call with Frank was like, wow, I could really push this forward, And I remember calling Frank. I can't remember if this was before or after a consultation. I can't remember exactly when this was, but I remember calling Frank, and I remember I was really nervous, right? Because I mean, look, I've worked as a director level in the corporate world, so I'm used to these kind of things. But this was just a different level from outside my comfort zone. This is like a project that I'd never done before, but I was proposing to someone who's in this field. And I remember calling him, and it wasn't my most coherent call, but he got it, and he invited me to a meeting with him in Amsterdam, and it kind of just started from there. So it's just amazing what you can really create when you get clear on it and challenge yourself a bit. And that's what I loved about our first kind of interactions. Just showed me that's what you're about. And yeah, I saw that very clear. And one of the other reasons I wanted to work with you was how you were executing your coaching. Because obviously, with my profile, I'm exposed to a lot of coaches, right? I'm exposed to a lot of speakers, a lot of people in this field. And I would say maybe 95% of the people in London, or the people I'm exposed to in my network, are copying someone else's message. They're not executing authentically. And what I loved about you was, I remember this was a period when you were challenging people. You were coaching people to skydive. Is that right? I think you were coaching people to jump out of an airplane. And okay, that idea in itself may not be so original. I've heard it before, but the way you were executing it was amazing. And that's why I love it. It was like your execution. I know that ideas are cheap. I know that Tony Robbins model, a lot of people want to do it. I know like Gary Vaynerchuk work hard kind of model. Everyone wants to kind of have that message. Your execution of your message was so authentic and so perfect. That's what resonated with me. I was like, this guy's an innovator. He's on the leading edge, and that's why I kind of just trusted you, So, yeah, that was kind of my initial feeling, if that gives you a sense.
Wow, I didn't know that actually. That hadn't come up. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, because that was related to a program I created called Jump, which was about working together for 6 months, a group program. And at the end of that, the culmination of the leap in life with a leap out of an aeroplane. That was the idea of that. Yeah, that was the point of that. Funnily enough, though, it didn't actually pan out, that one. It didn't. No one wanted to do it. It didn't ever. It was one of the ideas that flopped, But it did lead into a lot of other areas. The essence of what I do is create an experience which is a metaphor for life with a physical experience. It's kind of like what I love to do.
That's it, yeah.
Definitely. So that's fascinating that you saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I obviously I don't know how many people went on the program, but I know that it kind of really resonated with me because I was going through that period, and I was jumping, and I'd made that decision obviously before I kind of met you, but when I saw it, it was like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm going. This is what I'm going through right now, It really resonated with me. There's a couple of projects that you were doing. One was that's great because obviously people need to just jump, and have that trust. And obviously if you can coach them through that process, then that's amazing. And then there was another project that you were doing where you were helping people create second income, like another income whilst they're working. And so all of these projects were kind of about freedom, and for me, like, that's exactly the kind of the pathway that I was going through. And I felt like you really got that, and you were really encouraging people to take that step. So I loved it. I loved what you were doing there.
Yeah, like I say, I wasn't aware of any of that actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no clue. Like, we haven't had that conversation, and all the time we've been together, I didn't realise that you've done that. So that's really great to know. And in fact, that's got me inspired actually about creating that jump, like launching that jump one again actually. I'm in a different place from it, and what is exciting for me to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Because you don't want coaching to just be about like talking. You want, like you said, that kind of embodiment practice. You want to kind of have that something that really anchors a new way of being, right? So in fact, that's pretty much the undercurrent of everything. It's like, sure, we have the insights, which are really powerful, right? Very, very important. But then there has to be the experiential side, or it's just waste time. And it's through the experience that you grow. And how, we create a show, whether that's a live experience that I create with someone, or it's one you create in your own life, right? Like you having, because it was after that first meeting that you phone Frank. We met at the South Bank. You got this idea to do that, and it was like, I think it was the Monday after actually. You had that call with him, and so it's very much, you had that immediate wow, that vision for the distant future. Yes.
If you wanted to put the gun on it now, it could happen, right? And that's the beautiful thing. People only ever dream to a certain point because they think, well, I'll do that later. When you start connecting to the future that you truly desire, suddenly there's lots of stuff you don't need to do, right? You can just create those shortcuts, and that's what I love. Because why waste time? Why not just live that future vision now?
Yeah, and actually what I really appreciate when we're kind of digging in there was that you weren't giving me the answers. You were asking the questions, and you were working on an intuitive level. Like you kind of knew there was something more, and you were positioning the questions really well, but you were not giving the answers. And that's what made it so powerful, because that allowed me to work at the level of insight. And that's the hardest thing to do when, I don't know the profile of your clients, but obviously in terms of my profile, like quite a high achiever, that I want to go places quickly. I want to grow. And for me, it's like to work at the level of insight with someone is so valuable, because for me, one idea or a lesson offered from a different perspective is just a game changer. It can take me to another level. So to work at that level, I'm hearing myself kind of say the answer, and I know that's it. So that's really powerful to work at that level. And that's what's authentic. That's what's real. That's what's genuine. It's not like regurgitating someone else's message of what I need to do, right? That's why I really enjoyed it, because I got a different sense of freedom from speaking with you, and it actually made everything seem so simple, which is what it's all about. Because sometimes we do complicate it. Sometimes there are too many layers in a way, isn't there? So that's why I really appreciated that you kind of got there.
It's funny because I had a coaching call before this, and at the end of it, what she was saying was about how she's got now a simple, clear path to what she wants. And I'm like, that's pretty much what I do. I help people just remove the crap that's in the way, and anything they desire, they can have. And it's very simple. So I help them remove all the rubbish really that's in the way, telling them it isn't. Like you think you have to take these steps, but you don't. You can just leap off. If you're willing to take that risk, you can. And it's about supporting someone to actually do that, so they know that they've got that support, so you can. And so I'm curious for you actually, because obviously you did take a leap. You were on a path of growth, and you left the country, right? You became this nomad essentially. So what was it like for you doing that whilst having me sort of working with you?
Um, yeah, I mean, it was an exciting part of my life. You know, I kind of got the perspective that this was a transitional period, and it was going to be I kind of got that this is the phase of my life that I'm living through right now, you know. And we spoke, I think it was every month, wasn't it? It was one call a month. And then in between that, we had the assessments. And the assessment was quite challenging, obviously, as you know. And you were guiding me on the assessments to bring a bit more depth to it, and more clarity, and obviously there's more truth, more honesty, and so I was doing that on a weekly basis, and I have to be honest, it was like sometimes it was really difficult. I'd block out like Sunday nights, and it would be a big part of my day. You know, that Sunday, it was like I know I've got to do this thing later. But it was golden, actually. It's really golden because Sunday night should be for planning and thinking ahead and reviewing. And I loved that structure. It really resonated with me. So the fact that you were doing that, the fact that we were doing that as part of our coaching was great. Now, when I look back at my assessments compared to the very first one, it's just like chalk and cheese, you know, in terms of the detail, the clarity, and just the level of kind of openness and honesty is great. So we were doing that. What was really good was, I think, that when you were kind of highlighting aspects of the assessment and questioning them. And that was kind of, again, bringing me a little bit more outside my comfort zone. And that in itself, you know, the kind of follow-up to the assessments was like, it wasn't on a Skype call. It was just by email or whatever. But that was also really helpful because that was a mini coaching session, or a kind of zoom into an aspect. So that was helpful. Actually, you know, that whole practice of doing the assessment was like, this is it for me. For me, it was about this, right? It's like I already have two perspectives in terms of how I see things with my partner, right? So Alma is also my coach, and like I've got two like perspectives looking at my behavior almost in a way. So that's quite exponential in itself. And then on top of that, I had also you. So I had like three kind of perspectives looking at if I'm complaining at something, or if I'm comparing with someone, or if I'm really kind of doing what I say I'm going to do, right? And when I was filling out that assessment, I kind of had this, like, I was doing it from my perspective, but I also had you there when I was doing it. And I was kind of questioning myself almost from that perspective. And that's what really helped just shift things for me. You know, it's just about having multiple perspectives, multiple awareness, more empathy, right? So that was really helpful. That's why it's kind of called the Exponential Plan, I guess. So
yeah, I remember I actually changed the name because originally I just called it like a self-coaching assessment, because it's for self-coaching, right? Teaching you to coach yourself more powerfully, as well as me coaching you. So it's kind of like different layers. But I remember in one of our first sessions, I was talking to you about the exponential part of the growth of what we do together. And I remember you lit up at that. Exponential really resonated with you.
Yes.
So I actually called it the first time an exponential growth assessment for you.
Oh, cool.
And since then, that's what I call them. I call it for everyone. So because of you, that's now the brand of my assessment.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
it resonated so much. And obviously, that's what we got to see in the assessments you shared. You actually track the exponential growth in words, right?
Yes.
You can see it. Each time you can see the difference in you, in the way you saw things, in the lessons you learned, the insights, the energy, even because part of it, you write your vision out, don't you? The vision for your life. And if you just look at the energy flow of that, how that changed, it's just ridiculous. You know, the flow of that and who you became was like trapped in, forever in this assessment. You know, it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And it started out in terms of the vision, it started out as kind of like opaque and then a bit in the future. And then it ended up like really grounded and in detail in the present moment, you know, and that's really powerful. To write that out, you know, just to commit pen to paper on something that is so exciting, so grounded, so detailed, and so present, you know, and that was the whole evolution of it. Yeah, it was obviously it was a life-changing period of my life, right? And but also in that period, I know that there wasn't a lot of people in my life that were going through that or had experience of, let's say, leaving the corporate world and becoming completely free, having all the time in the world, right? So I thought, let me have some stability. And that's why what was really cool was that we were connecting when I was in different parts of the world, right? And I remember I was in, when I was in Gili. I think one of the most powerful sessions we had was when I was in Gili Air, an island off Bali, right? So this is like an island with, I don't know how many people, like 3,000 or something like that, right? So it's a really remote island. And it was like, there's hardly any light because it's dark, and the Wi-Fi was pretty poor, right? And we were speaking. And this was like probably, I would say all of the sessions were really powerful. Like I can track back a specific lesson that I got from each one. That's why we extended the coaching, right? But I remember this one in Gili was a game changer for my trading practice. And I had a trading coach and like a mentorship, right? And that was obviously helped me like really create successful strategies. But in terms of the psychology behind trading, because it is psychology, like 80% of it is psychology. And I remember that there was this one session in Gili where you probably couldn't see my face because it was so dark and the Wi-Fi wasn't so good. But you were following something from my planner, and the lesson that came out of it was a couple of things. One, to start small. And I remember that I was starting quite big, and that was kind of affecting my results. And I started smaller. But then I also started to allow, right? So I started to work on a more intuitive level. And I remember from that point, that's when I started creating some really powerful strategies, like strategies that really suit my style, because I'm quite like, when it comes to trading, for example, quite black and white, right? I need like certain rules to follow those rules and not break those rules, right? And I remember it was in that call that I kind of just started to allow more. And I remember creating a strategy that just flowed through me. It was like a process that we were kind of talking about of allowing. And I don't know how that lesson kind of translated and went, and it kind of started a ripple effect that helped me create 3 strategies from scratch that no one taught me. Just literally being in the state of allowing, and those strategies are the ones, you know. So that was pretty amazing. I just remember that as a really, really powerful session. And it was a very good reminder, because I'm someone who's really about giving. And sometimes what is on the flip side of that, you also need to be a really good receiver. And sometimes I kind of deny it, you know. And so it was really powerful for me to just be in that state of allowing. And I don't know how you kind of got that. I don't know, to this day, I don't know how you got that, but you're working at a very intuitive level and you understood that about me. And it was really powerful. Like the moment, and you didn't give me the answer. I got the answer myself. And I just instantly was like, it was an aha moment. It was a genuine aha moment. It was like, wow, that's it. That's exactly it. So it was from there, like everything changed from my Nomad experience. It was at that point that it wasn't like I have to make it. It was at that point, it was like, I've made it. And that changed everything. So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. As to how we created that together, I have no real clue. Because I'm just kind of listening, experiencing everything that you share, and then something feels a certain way, and then I reflect it, and it's in that reflection that you then connect, and if it resonates, bang, that was when the insight was created. So because I mean, you know, I couldn't tell you specifically I did this because it's not really about that, is it? But it is. When I felt it, and then I shared it with you, then you felt it, and that was incredible. Yeah, and then seeing the greatest thing though is because obviously it's great what happens in the session, but then when you see you go out and actually it starts to flow through you, you know, and you actually create real tangible stuff, right? That's impacting your life. It's beautiful. You know?
Yeah. And I remember something else that came out of that session. It's quite trading related, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I remember that it was like that aha moment, and it was like, okay, and then we kind of discussed 4 or 5 points, and you're like, okay, what you've got from this session, write out an email. I've still got that email. And I think like one of the first things in that email was I was quite resistant to doing some of the work, right? And some of the work was like sitting in front of a computer, going through a spreadsheet and start back testing like this strategy, or like it's basically like a scientific process. Like you build a hypothesis and you test it, right? And I was quite resistant to like testing it backwards. I was like really happy to like test it forwards in the real environment. And I kind of got the game, was like, I need to get this experience of looking at the market backwards, because that's how I get like 2 years experience in 1 week or in days, you know. And I just got that. I was really resistant the first 6 months of my nomad journey, and it was at that point, it was like, okay, this is the game right here. So, and then I started doing that.
And that's actually interesting, because it just reflects the fact that it's not really about anything, because you know all this stuff, right? You knew that. You would have known that months before.
Yeah.
You know, it's not rocket science, right? In the training you would have had, that would have been basic. However, like you say, it's psychology, it's something deeper in the kind of life you want. But you weren't able to connect it to the life you want until that moment when we explored it, and suddenly your eyes opened up in a new way to that.
Yeah.
I remember, because your energy, this was the important bit, your energy shift for that change. It wasn't like you were forcing it. It wasn't like you had to struggle through it because you saw it was important. Your energy around it shifted.
Yes.
And so the presence you brought to it and the results you created from it changed completely.
Yeah, and actually, like this is real, because I became a backtesting demon. I backtested 1,000 data points, you know, close to 1,000 data points in just a few days. And you know, I wasn't just doing like 50 or 100. I was doing 1,000 to test it, you know. And I really enjoyed it, because like you said, my energy changed. I realized that this is my way of kind of shortcutting the whole process. Like I can get 2 years experience here right now. So you're right, my whole energy changed, and I started looking forward to it. I was excited by doing it.
Yeah, and so sometimes it's not about doing anything new, is it? It's not about experiencing anything different. It's just about, once you see something different, everything can change in that instant, can't it, from that moment on? Yeah. Beautiful. So the next thing is, how would you describe like the coaching relationship?
Yeah, it was challenging. It was challenging. It was truthful. It was really beautiful. I mean, overall, I think that's the best way for me to describe it. It was just a really beautiful relationship that we had, an experience in general. There was always like this kind of a little bit of anxiety, like before the calls, let's say, you know. If I'm being honest, it's like, okay, what are we going to explore? Or like, this is going to be it's going to be challenging, or it was that kind of like, maybe sometimes that energy, and then we'd go on a call, it would just be so natural and it would just flow. And sometimes we talk about something that I really wouldn't think that we would talk about, but actually that was the thing. We'd always get to the point where it was like something that changed my perception. And okay, it might be unrelated to business sometimes. It might be about family. It might be about whatever, but actually it doesn't matter, because if your perception changes, it affects everything. And that's what I was finding. It was like, sometimes I think, okay, I want to talk about this. And then we would talk about something completely left field that was about relationships. And that was it. That was the thing that like maybe like really took off so many layers and made me be really excited again or something, you know. And so it was challenging. But it was really beautiful. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's not very like tangible, but
but it's a good point about the anxiety before it, because the reality is when we're in our relationship together, when I'm coaching you, you give me permission to say to you stuff that no one else will.
Mm-hmm.
To actually reflect to you things that no one else would even think to reflect to you. And so you know that when you show up to that call, there's nowhere to hide, is there, right? It's like everything's there, because that's why you've shown up. That's why we're here. It's to so you can see things in the way that you can and create that exponential growth.
Yeah.
But actually, it's good that you had that, you know, because you knew that you were going to risk something.
Yeah. It's basically this is it. This is the best way to describe our relationship, or what it's like to be with an awesome coach in general. And that is a coach that basically just holds up a big mirror to you and just like is very integrated in who they are, but is able to hold up that mirror to you. And that's what it was like. And sometimes it was like, I'm just talking and getting insights like about what I'm saying and where I'm coming from, what my energy is. And you're not saying anything, you know? And so, that's what it was like. That's really powerful. It was like less is more sometimes, you know, and that's what I appreciated about it was you didn't have to say anything sometimes. You just have to, you're just holding that mirror and, and that's the best way to, that is the biggest way to grow is to seek feedback in that way. Is to have people who are going to be a really good mirror for you, and that's why you resonated with me, and that's why the sessions were so powerful. Because I'm like, I really appreciate that mirror that you're holding up, and now I'm kind of seeking that in all aspects. Like I want the biggest mirror in front of me, you know, like I embrace it, and that's kind of the difference from a year ago where I was a little bit nervous about it, and now it's like I really embrace it fully. Receiving and taking feedback is the hardest thing to do for people, even like high achievers, you know. And I think that's maybe sometimes why people may be afraid to reach out for a consultation with you sometimes, you know, and instead they might maybe go for someone who's less powerful. But it's actually really easy and simple to be with you. And that's how I would summarize it.
Yeah, that is a good point, because people are not necessarily ready to have that level of awareness in their life, right? That level of self-reflection isn't. People need to grow to a point of being ready for that. But yeah, definitely, if it scares them off too much, then they're just not ready, you know, which is good, because it'd be a waste of time, right, to just show up and not to be willing to dig that deep, because then you're not going to create the exponential growth that you were, you know. And this is why it's kind of cheating in a way, because I just choose to work with awesome people who are going to do that. So it makes life quite easy in that way, you know.
Yeah.
We play well and we click, and then we see where it goes. Which is why I have the tryout period at first, you know, because then we get to really experience what it's like, and then choose to work together ongoing.
Yeah. And also that was a part of our process, was that I remember we did a call in the beginning that was you just providing me value and me testing out how would the relationship be like, and do we resonate? Do I resonate with you? Are you saying things that resonate with me, etc.? And I think it was like at that point I was like, yeah, this is going to work. So that helps that you do that as part of your practice. And again, that was something that really resonated, that your process is to provide value first, which is really good.
Yeah, because I always want to see, right, what we can create together. I want it to be powerful for us both, because I want to show up knowing I'm making a difference, right? So it's pointless just to go, pay me some money, and nothing happens. It, you know, bored the shit out of me. So it's awesome. And then great. And then obviously from then, you know, if I remember from that first call, it was clear, you know, the way you showed up and the way you opened up too. It was clear that you were ready to dig deep and to create what you said you would. You know, which is because a lot of people say they want things, But then when it comes down to it, they hold back, and then they're not willing to open up and to have that level of scrutiny on themselves. But yeah, it just says a lot about you as well, in that you were truly committed to that, and that's why you created the life that you have, right?
Yeah. And I feel very blessed, and like you said, it obviously takes some commitment and to put yourself kind of through that, but I don't think there's I don't think there's a better way to be, so I'm very blessed that what we've created, what you've helped me achieve, is that wow, I can't believe, genuinely sometimes I cannot believe what I've created, but obviously created with your support, in that time, and that really kind of sensitive and crucial period. That's the transition, and trying to make a new business work. And yeah, I've kind of mentioned it, and a few times it inspired. It's like true freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. It's like I'm living completely on my terms, and I can work from any country in the world. And like this year, it's just been about mastery for me. It's been about learning Spanish, learning how to dance sevillanas, which has been an awesome journey. And like I'm at the point now where it's like I can learn anything, and I can be whatever I want to be, and I can be anywhere, and I'm doing it with my partner, obviously, who I'm really blessed to have. And but it's awesome that ultimately I think you have that kind of framework inside you, right? That kind of sense of freedom, that's an adventure. That's also a big part of your values. So that's why I trusted you, to do it with. So
yeah, it's interesting actually. I came across a list that I'd written in 2 years ago, March 2014, a list of 26 fears that I'd written to my coach at the time, John. And I read them back. It's fascinating reading them. It's like, will I ever be able to create my way out of my job? Will I stay stuck? Am I a follower or a leader?
Wow.
These kind of questions are coming up. And now looking back, it's like, wow.
My God, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, who is that guy?
That's a transformation, yeah.
Hugely, right? And it's only like just over 2 years ago. So for me, it's really important to be living on the edge, continuously creating, growing, and yes. So that's very much what I call to me as well, the people I work with. And so it's amazing to see you, because obviously our coaching ended a few months ago, and yet you're still you're creating more now, right? It's expanding into so many different areas.
Yeah, and I don't think our journey is going to end. I mean, like I said, kind of when I kind of said, like, jokingly, that I want to break up. But I also said that I want to work again, like, together in the future, and there's going to be another period where I say, okay, this is a period I want to work with David again. And it's going to be interesting to see how our relationship evolves, and how obviously your coaching evolves, how I evolve, and obviously I want to join up again in the future. That was my intention at the beginning. I wanted a long-term kind of commitment, and that's why. I mean, I didn't do like a lot of scouting, but I was like, whoever I'm going to work with is going to be a long-term thing. Someone I can see myself working with, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if they still want to be in that game. And I didn't do a lot of scouting, but when I kind of met you, felt you, and saw you, I was like, yeah, this is the guy. So that was like that period of my life, and then there's going to be another period that we can work together. But what's been great is that I've been able to lock you down at the same fee, like, forever. So.
Yeah, that was cheeky. Yeah, that you caught me at an interesting time there.
with bonuses.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is interesting, because I know you hadn't done a lot of scouting because you weren't even looking for a coach really. But I do know you did have conversations with some coaches, right? So just out of interest, what was the difference that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really scouting, and maybe I was meeting like other people who were coaches, but because they were part of my network, And obviously, I've got like 1,000 friends, mainly because I run Inspired, and some of them are coaches. So we sometimes have a drink or whatever, have a coffee. It's difficult. It's really difficult because the London personal development industry is maturing. It's still maturing. It's not as a step, like this is my perspective, you know, my profile, right? So I hope people take it in the right way. I'm just saying that obviously I've been to a lot of international events, you know, I've been to like all across the world for kind of personal development events and growth and stuff like that. And obviously the most mature place is West Coast of the States, where, you know, the industry is like 30 years old. So it's not a baby anymore. I would say London is still what, maybe 5-10 years old. So it's still like, it's just about to come up to puberty, you know. And there's a lot of people had the idea to be a life coach. You know, I've had that idea. And the honest truth is that it's a really difficult balance from my perspective, because it's like, I get that this is an awesome career for people to have, right? To be paid for helping transform people's lives and to immerse yourself with self-development, right? But the balance is difficult because if you have not achieved that much, or if you have not achieved something tangible, then it's really difficult for you to be grounded in what you know. Like, what is your undisputable goddamn truth? And I don't think some coaches are there yet, you know, and that process takes experience and takes knowledge and takes know-how. It's not like, okay, you know what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about self-development and I want to make money, so I'm going to be a coach. It doesn't work like that. You know, there has to be a process of evolution before you kind of get there, like before kind of the rock hardens and you become solid. And so, like, okay, I know your story. Like, I know that your story is 20 years more or less with one company, and you know, I know that you were not the CEO of that company, but I know that you have gone through that process, because speaking with you, I can see that, I can feel that you've learned those lessons. You've got that as your base, and then much more beyond. So. That comes through a conversation, or that comes like just seeing your body of work. Like I was looking at your body of work. I was looking at your videos and stuff that you're producing, and I was like, okay, this guy's like not copying anyone's message. This is genuinely his message, and he's being vulnerable and sharing it, like and doing it with no attachment. It was not like because you wanted clients. It was not marketing. It was just, this is my journey, and I want to document it because I want more self-awareness. And I love that. I love where you're coming from in that process. And so look, maybe I have a really distorted view because I'm the host of Inspired, and I know probably every life coach out there in London right now, or close, or like a high percentage of them. And I know that it's a great idea to like mix your passion with what you're good at, and then make that into your career. But the honest truth is, like, you need know-how, you need experience, and that kind of comes from just like application, you know, and going through like a process yourself, a genuine one. And I noticed that about you, basically.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's good, you know, because I was like I say, you do have connections to many different coaches. And it just didn't spark. So, you know, I appreciate that it did with me. You know, and I suppose it just goes to the connection that we created when we first met, and follow up from that, and then obviously we'll explore. So yeah, it's nice to know that. You know?
Yeah.
Because actually, that's one of the things I wouldn't want to try and be anything I'm not anyway. So it's interesting to know that you did check that out, and that was what resonated with you.
Yeah.
Because again, we're not really talking about any of that. Kind of dove in and just created it together. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So now then, so what's next for you? Like, what do you see happening for you now?
I'm just in the process of, honestly, my purpose is quite simple right now. Is just to be happy and to share. And it's that simple. I'm going through a process of really mastering many different aspects of my life. One is like my health, my fitness, my body, being multilingual. So, you know, having a different language in my life and speaking Spanish every day. And because that also connects me to this culture, so and many different cultures. Obviously my trading practice, and that's a lot of that is down to like discipline, but also working intuitively. And for me, it's like what's really exciting for me is to work more instinctively, but in a very dynamic environment, which is the markets, and then applying that in all aspects of my life. So this year is still aspects of is the residue of the transition, because I really want to take this to another dimension, and that motivates me for many different reasons. But one of those reasons is because I want to serve in a huge way, and obviously I can do that with my time and with my energy, but also it would be multiplied if I had the resources as well. And for the first time probably ever in my life, like I have the opportunity to create huge resources, as well as give my time and my energy. And that's really exciting for me. So I'm in that process right now. And yeah, the main thing is just to really enjoy life and enjoy this process where I'm at with it, and share. And if I can inspire people to make their own jump, or for people to realize what is like the next step, or what could be potentially the next step, or how simple could this process be, then, you know, I just want to help facilitate that if possible, but with no expectation, just in terms of sharing. So the other thing is to build a community here in Seville, like-minded individuals, people who are passionate about personal growth, create a platform for people to speak their undisputable truth, their wisdom from stage. So it's the same platform that we've been creating in London, but in Seville. And so just taking Inspired International, basically. That's what I'm working on this year. And yeah, just have awesome relationships with people, and that's it.
Yeah, I remember in the last call we had, we reconnected, didn't we, a week or two ago, and it was regarding that how more connected you feel now, because obviously you have been the nomadic, so you have been traveling, and now you've decided to settle in Seville, and you've got this place now, and you're connecting with the people there and creating a community and friendships where you are, right? Which I think is a beautiful thing, because I think this is just useful for people who have got this fantasy of traveling the world, because you had that too, and you were doing it, and actually you're like, well, actually you want to do that, but you want a base to do that from.
Yes.
And that's what you found by exploring, right? And living free. This is what you've chosen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it was almost instantaneous. It was when we first had a little play with the city, like, this is it. You know, we kind of want to be based in Europe, actually, and this is the kind of city. So yeah, it helped bring a lot more clarity as well. It's just to kind of find this is our base, and from here we can explore more. So,
well, it's been a hell of a ride. You know, from when we first met in Mayfair to you living in Seville and creating even more for yourself. So yeah, it's been an honour to be part of it with you, Ayman, and to help you.
Thank you. Likewise, it's been an honour to work with you.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your story here. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with you again.
Likewise.
So I'm just going to end.